Hello and welcome to another installment of the MBTV Debates Rui Cunha Foundation series. This is a series of roundtables that we've been holding in cooperation between Macau Business and Rui Cunha Foundation. We've been talking about a number of issues that have been making the headlines over the past 3 years. And today's topic is effectively the story of Macau in the first half of 2023, which is the recovery of the city's tourism industry post-COVID reopening. So our theme is, and our topic is Phoenix rising from the ashes, from the COVID ashes now to a tourism revival. So making the most of a tourism revival. We will be talking about the current situation of the tourism industry and also the way forward, how we can project this recovery and also the much expected upgrade in the city's visitor experience. And to talk about all of that, we are joined by a distinguished panel of experts, well-seasoned industry players and scholars who will be sharing with us their views, their perspective on the city's tourism development. They are Luís Heredia, Principal Consultant and Owner Representative at Pousada de Coluan and Crown Plaza Hotels. He's here as well and primarily as President of the Macau Hotel Association. He's also adjunct lecturer at Macau Institute for Tourism Studies, IFTM. We also have here with us, on my right, Celia Lau, Vice Chairman of the Guangdong Hong Kong Macau GBA Aviation Exchange Association. Celia has 15 years of experience in the aviation industry. She was the CEO of Air Asia Hong Kong and Macau from 2017 to 2021. Currently, she is the country head of Air Asia Teleport, responsible for managing Air Asia's logistics businesses in China, Hong Kong, and Macau. On my left, I have Professor Penny Wan, professor at Macau Institute for Tourism Studies. She's a well-seasoned scholar, researcher, lecturer. She has been doing research with a focus on tourism governance, accessible tourism, sustainable tourism planning and development, integrated resort management, and urban planning, among many other topics. She's also a tourism consultant with diverse project experience, such as theme parks, golf courses, heritage conservation, and hotel development, and has provided trainings to integrated resorts. And last not the least, we have Vincent Rosa de Pauli, president of SCAL International Macau, the local affiliate of SCAL International Association of Travel and Tourism Professionals. Vincent Rosa de Pauli is also the general manager of Sofitel Macau at Ponte 16 with about 15 years of experience in hotel management in the Greater China region. Thank you very much for joining us today. Our pleasure. My name is José Carlos Matias. I'm the director of Macau Business and Macau News Agency. And I'd like to welcome you all who are joining us here at Rui Cunha Foundation. And those of you who are following us on Facebook, if you've got some time, please join us in person. Otherwise, you may follow us and also join the conversation. This will be a sharing session, roundtable, interactive, living up to the name of the MBTV debate series. Without further delay, let me start by bringing our distinguished guest speakers into the conversation. I'll start with Luís Heredia. What do you think of this tourism revival? When we look at the figures, we can see that in the first 4 months of the year, we had some 7.2 million visitor arrivals. That's already more than half of what was recorded in the same period of 2019. Let's not forget that 2019 we saw a record high figure for the whole year with more than 39 million tourists. Your thoughts on this matter? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, José Carlos, and thank you, Macau Business Magazine, for inviting me to be here. Well, on the first point, I like to, as you say, yes, the rebound was fast, and we can see that in April, if you look the figures, the average rate in the hotel is already very similar to 2019. The same with the occupancy, a little bit lower, 86% compared to 90%, but this is indeed a great mark. So yes, we have big challenge, but we had the opportunity to have important markets close to us. China, as soon as we opened the border, and also Hong Kong, we had incentives, but not only the incentives brought the tourists and the visitors. I think the attraction, the Macau, so we happy with the first 4 months, 5 months, and we have challenges to the future. We faced the labor shortage. This was the most difficult. Of course, we need goods, we need other things also, and it was too sudden, but we could manage. I think we know how to work in these conditions in Macau. Macau is almost like an island. Everything comes outside. We don't produce anything. We only produce is satisfaction to our customers. And this is what we need to do better and better as competition is growing. So the challenge is with labor, and keep training, keep satisfying them. Also, we can satisfy better our customers.
Thank you, Luis. Celia, pent-up demand, expected pent-up demand. This was the talk. I remember, when was that? I think it was in September, if I'm not mistaken, at an FMCC roundtable. You were one of the guest speakers, and you actually provided at the time, pretty relatively optimistic view on, or at least perspective on the post-COVID reopening. And here we are with figures which are definitely encouraging, right?
Yes, yes, definitely. Thank you, Joseph, for the invitation first. Like before the border open, we are very optimistic, honestly, because we can see other part of the world open up the border first, and we can also see Hong Kong open up earlier than ours, than Macau. So we can see the other part of the world, when they open up, the demand is like, before COVID, we are guessing whether the resumption will be L-shape, U-shape, or V-shape, right? And if you look at the numbers, the figures shows that most of the areas, most of the routes or countries, when the demand, when the border open up, the demand is V-shape. So we can foresee when Macau or China open, the demand will be the same, very similar. But it actually, yes, after everything like borders open and restrictions cancel, and the flights start to come back, and all the flights, when we start, all the flights come back to Macau, we can see that the load factors is like 100%, unbelievable, yeah. Because we believe that humans, we need interactive. We need people to travel to see each other. So we are really optimistic, and so we realize after the flight resume, the demand is really crazy. Yeah, that we're looking forward to adding more flight as well. We can see the airport also, according to the airport statistic, more flights is coming back in the second half of this year. Yeah.
Yes, nearly on a daily basis, we have these news, which I believe are being followed by many of us, eager to have more options now that we are on a revenge traveling mood, so to say,
Yes.
post-COVID. Professor Pennywan, you have been looking at this from different perspectives. Are you surprised by the vigor and the strength of the recovery?
Of course, we are very surprised. In the first place, after all the measure was lifted up since January the 8th, and the figure was very impressive, and we are happy about that. But at the same time, there are a lot of issues that we have to tackle. And our FTM has a research center. We study the tourist profile since for this in the past 4 months, and we find that the profile changed quite a lot. We have a lot of younger tourists, and half of them come as a group, with friends, and they stay longer in Macau. Before they stay maybe 2.1 day, now extend to 3.5 to 6 days. And when we ask them where you go in Macau, they say first I will go to shopping. What is the second one? They say they go for visiting heritage sites. And the third one is cuisine, and the fourth is gambling. So you totally can see the new profile, new requirement that need us to address and understand their needs. And also issues about carrying capacity. I think nowadays become very hot issue now, right? So how do we address them is another issue.
Thank you, Professor. So these already are issues that will be food for thought in our second round of approach. Vincent Rosa de Pauli, I remember when we spoke, when I was looking at the interview we published with you back in November, and the headline was glass half full. So even in November, when the situation was still pretty grim in many ways, your view was not on the half empty glass side, but on a half full side of the equation. And now the glass is full, right? Or getting full. Is it the case?
The glass is getting full. It's not full yet, obviously. We were always very positive and very optimistic, and we were all knowing that this opening will come at one day. We were just waiting for that day. We knew from other cities and other regions that opened way earlier that this revenge tourism will come, that it will come very, very fast and with a very huge impact on the city and on the region. It fortunately then started in December and January. All my colleagues at the Skull Club that are so connected to the tourism industry, is it in transportation, in the hospitality, in event companies, consulting companies, everyone is looking very prosperous and very optimistic into the future. They're all super, super busy. That's what we were waiting for in the last 3 years.
That's right. And so let's now talk about some of the challenges, right? I guess we have briefly touched upon the matters related to labor carrying capacity, ability to meet the needs and what the new profile of visitor is looking for in the city. Luis, labor is an issue. I guess we have here in these two cases, you have been, Luis and Vincent, you've been dealing with that. First, we had, of course, the COVID pandemic wave of mass infections, which took a toll on most businesses' ability to provide the service. But then afterwards, with a fast influx of visitors, we are kind of back to a debate where we were before, which is operators asking for more expedite and smoother procedure to bring in more labor, right?
Yeah, obviously and in our side hotels, obviously it's quite complex. We need all kind of labor. We not only serve on our restaurants and at the front office, and clean the rooms. We need all kind of labor. So this is complex and it takes time. It needs all the team to work together. And but we see opportunities that probably Macau has to look into. One is, for instance, understand why some of the students who are in the university, and because we have a few universities here with many students, they are not from Macau. And they could probably have an experience in labor, and they could stay, and this could help. So this is one of them. The other thing is, could we be more flexible with the labor? Because we need to offer a career to our staff. And many times with the law as it is now and the framework, sometimes we are a little bit stuck with it. So this is all linked, from recruiting to train and show career motivation. So yes, there's a lot of challenges. We believe we can improve. We need all to work together. From our side, the service providers and the operators, but also the governance. We need to look into these aspects.
Thank you, Vincent. Let me bring you now into the conversation because of the hotel management side of all of this, labor shortages, the need for flexibility, and striking the right balance between, of course, protecting local manpower and also being able to import the manpower that the city needs to fulfill its role. What's your view on this hot discussion, hot topic?
Yeah, it is. It is. You know, we in the hospitality, same as Luis and me and many others, we need labor to do a job, but we also need labor to enhance the service quality. So it is very, very important to have the right labor force in the market to provide the service that the customers and our guests expect. Macau was always or still is a very international region, a very international city that tries to attract international customers, that tries to serve people from around the world, global travelers that have seen the world, and then coming to Macau. And for that, we need a wide range of local talents, but also of foreign talents to be in our industry to serve our widespread of guests that come to town.
So here's the issue, Professor Pennyone, of human capital training. That is your cup of tea,
Wow,
obviously.
yes.
You have written the research on this. What are your 2 cents on the matter?
I just want to say that our institute are working very hard
Yes.
in providing, you know, the quality human resources, and we have like from certificates to PhD level of programs, and we also open master program in digital marketing, you know, smart technology and tourism to cater for the needs of our industry. I hope that we can contribute to the industry growth and to cope with the industry demand as well.
And, sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Feel
free to jump in. You know, yes,
we were
please.
just having a talk before the round table, and we're having some trainees and internships from the universities, and we were just sharing in front office, but also in TNC. It's our HR department, and in our restaurants. There are great talents that are in internship programs in the hotels, and they're very well received and very well welcomed to get the final training from the operation side that they might not get at the university. So it's a mutual cooperation to bring them to a level to serve all guests that come to Macau.
And talking about what IFT has been contributing with regards to training, but also to research, I would suggest you to take a look at every single monthly edition of Macau Business Magazine and also Business Intelligence in Chinese. You can find top-level summaries and abstracts of top-level research carried out by Professor Pennywone's teams and colleagues on a number of tourism and hospitality-related issues. And of course, you may also take a look at the rest of the magazine. So it's just my prerogative to do some advertisement on our monthly magazine. And thank you for your readership and support, Celia. Manpower in the aviation industry, obviously, you had to go through a tough time during the pandemic. And how's been the process of rehiring and being able to quickly open up new routes and the service and the issue of service, of customer service, of course?
Yeah.
Yes.
Our aviation industry, experienced the similar things as the hotels and also the rest of the tourist industry, very similar. But for us, because aviation is a very professional industry, and during COVID, there's a certain number of staff were laid off because the pandemic is very long. It's like 3 years. So when those staff were laid off, and now when the reopen, we need to rehire them. But during this period of time, most of them has already found another job. So they're not in the industry as well, another industry. They switch to another industry and they feel comfortable because the airport environments or the airlines, you need to travel all the way from the city. Most of the airports is quite far away from the city. And also they need to be on shift because for airline industry, we are 24 hours working. The services, we need to be ready 24 hours. So most of the staff, when they left this industry, they feel comfortable for their new environments. So it's really hard for them to shift back to the airline industry or aviation industry. So that also create another challenge for us to recruit them back. So we need to retrain a new team of manpower to support the resumption of the flights. That is also takes quite long. Yeah.
And where to find them, the new employees, the new staff? Is it, I mean...
Yeah, everywhere. Actually,
Yeah.
from different markets,
Yeah.
locally, and also from like China, Hong Kong, and also the other part of the world we are recruiting. So we use a lot of recruitment channels according to the really like the demand of the local market. So in Macau, you can use the jobs.com, right? And
Yeah.
different channels, even newspapers. And in China and Hong Kong also different. But we are trying, but seems like we find there's a mismatch. We find a lot of people in the market telling us they cannot find a job. But airlines, like all other carriers as well, tell us that it's very difficult to find the right candidates. So it seems like there's a mismatch in the market nowadays.
Interesting point, because we're talking about shortages, but we also have an issue of mismatch when it comes to
Yes.
supply and demand in the job market in this industry. Anyone would like to join the conversation, add something on this, because I believe it's something that could be, and how can we address it if there's a way to tackle that?
I
Perhaps
just like
Luis,
to add
please.
in consequence or after what we talk a bit is that in our hotel side we have 78% of 5-star and 4-star hotel rooms. They represent 70 something percent, so which is a lot of rooms. It's 37,000 rooms. So this is, we have to provide service to that standard. Many of our hotels are international brands. So again, the training but we need to find about 50,000 people just from as non-resident workers to work, right? So this is a lot of people to train to keep. So this we feel that we have to extend our search. It went very slow, but the results are there, so we are satisfied, obviously. But this is a continuous process. It was before. It is not too different, but it's taking longer now.
There's been some concerns of a sort of potential labor crunch situation. Are we?
Well, we still don't have the flexibility, which could help. That's why I mentioned about the flexibility. We probably need to look into other markets, but we've been only working with the markets mainly, not only, but mainly with markets where the language is not yet a problem. So if we want to extend to other markets in the future, like India, Russia, Indonesia, and so on, we have to start thinking about the labor also and the service provider.
Interesting. That leads me to what would be the next issue on our agenda for conversation, which is this aim of bringing and attracting more international visitors from outside the Greater China region. Professor Pennywan, if we look at the figures from 2019, I'm quoting by heart, 92% of visitors' arrivals come from the Greater China region, meaning mainland China, Hong Kong, and Taiwan. This idea, this aim of making the source markets more diverse, could we think about a sort of a target? Let's say, let's try to reach 15%, or how do you think would be a sort of a target, or any sort of benchmark from that?
Well, I think very clearly the chief executive has already given the percentage to our gaming operator, right? Yeah. So I think for me, I think that those are the future benchmark. But we have to adapt and learn, because the door just opened. We are learning how to attract international guests. But in the past few months, we see an increasing number of international guests. So that's for sure. It is not easy, but we have to, talk about the flight connection.
Yes.
talk about how we work with Hong Kong. Like a lot of guests, actually, they like to travel to Hong Kong at the same time to Macau and also other cities in GBA. So it is not the matter of Macau alone. It is a matter of the cities in the GBA, how we collaborate and co-brand together.
In that respect, we've been seeing a lot of moves in terms of enhancing cooperation and coordination between the Macau SAR tourism authorities and those of the neighboring GBA cities. What's your take on the way forward in terms of making the most of these integration for the sake of the tourism experience here?
Well, I think this is a very important strategy, from our government and from China government, that GBA will be integrated. We will have a lot more collaboration. We want to co-brand together. So when, no matter it's domestic traveler or international traveler, they come to these cities, they will find it more attractive. They come here not just for Macau, not just for Hong Kong, but if each of these cities can brand themselves in particular service and product, and then we co-brand together, that will make the entire regions to be more attractive. And that will bring more international guests in the future, definitely.
And talking about the GBA, of course, we have our own distinctive and unique culture in Macau, and the Lingnam culture in southern China, in the Greater Bay Area, which could be branded together, perhaps, like in these campaigns. I think it's being done overseas recently.
Right, yes. But we have a lot more to offer.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right. Vincent,
maybe to
please,
add here.
yeah, please go ahead.
The perfect scenario is maybe when we attract global tourists and business travelers that come to Hong Kong, they visit their head offices, they go to Guangzhou, Shenzhen, see some factories, and on the way back they stop by Macau and Hengqin, and come here for some fun or culture or whatever it is, right? So rewarding a few days after maybe a busy business trip. I think that could be a very, very good promotion, worldwide promotion, to have Macau as the final stage before maybe then going home, leaving it with very, very good memories and hopefully good businesses before.
And staying more than one day, right, in the city.
2, 3, 4 is
yes, I think that's an issue.
Macau has a lot to offer.
Yes, that's an issue. This also is related to the Tourism Plus strategy that the government is promoting, combining in a cross-sector and cross-department approach tourism with, of course, MICE, sports, e-commerce, and cultural and creative industries. I believe I did not miss any of these.
Finance.
Yes, that's right.
More than
Finance, yes. Okay, that's right. Perhaps, Luis, you want to have a brief comment on this, something that was already being developed during the pandemic, but now it's being more widely promoted.
Yes, absolutely. I think this will be developed, but we have already a lot there. We have a lot of gastronomy, we have a lot on culture, and I would start that to enhance there more. And then obviously this is not my field more than finance, but if this direction, obviously this has also to be connected with Enching and in Macau. But I see culture and gastronomy as a very strong, but also other type of activities that can attract and can complement the MICE industry. So this is we have now 17 Michelin star. We had 22 Forbes. So of course this is on a very high level, but we also have many other gastronomy and culinary offers. So I think this should be enhanced more and more. Although the government is doing a good job, we should do even more.
Bringing the industry in this conversation, in these endeavors. We're talking about cooperation, coordination in the Greater Bay Area. Celia, you are deeply involved in this through the Aviation Exchange Association. Can you tell us a bit about how to maximize this kind of coordination, cooperation in the airliner sector, so we can also benefit Macau? What kind of synergies could be struck? We have a number of airports
Yes.
in the neighborhood, right?
Yes, we have 4 international airports
Yes,
in
right.
this GBA, and we have 1 domestic, Zhuhai, right? And for Macau, we need how we can step into this huge potential market. Macau's population is very small. We have only over 600,000 population, and which is not sufficient for attracting carriers to start a flight here. So we need to launch an international long-haul flight. This is very impractical because over the past almost 25 years already, right? The government is trying, Macau government is trying to develop the long-haul routes from Macau to Europe, like to Portugal, for example.
Yes.
But two-way traffic for us, for airline industry, is very common. You need to have in and out traffic in order for the route to sustainably develop. But just give you a perspective for Asia, we fly to Macau for the past 19 years already, and among our passengers, only 8% are locals, and the others are mainland Chinese and also foreigners. So you can see Macau population itself, it's really hard for us to attract foreign carriers to start a route or for local carriers to start a long-haul route to our destinations. So how we can utilize the GBA, that is a huge potential, because the GBA, we have over 86 million populations, and now how we can get into this market, tap into this market to utilize the airport, and then we can develop the airport to be more international, because our chief executives already mentioned we need to attract more tourists here, right? So we have GBA to provide us the base traffic, the passenger traffic to fill up outbound travel. We need international tourists to come here to visit Macau, and also, like many speakers just mentioned, to visit together, one-stop, multi-destination. So there's 2 ways how we can get this 2-way works. There's a lot of work to do, honestly. Like before travel, how we can attract them, during travel, after travel, how can they repeat? So there's a lot of things we can really work together. I mean, not only the government, but the industry players and the stakeholders, we can work together. I give you one example. For international tourists, we do a research over the past 10 years. There's only 8% tourists come to Macau by air. The others also by road, by land. But among these 8% of international tourists, they come here by air, 73% will stay overnight, because our government is trying so hard to extend the stays of the tourists in Macau, right? So by air, we have the quality of tourists. And among their per capita expendings, by air, tourists come here into Macau, it spends 4.5 times more than those by land or by sea. So that shows how important is the international tourists to come to Macau.
That's right. And in this respect, the future expansion of the airport is important, of course,
Yep.
as well as the liberalization, the end of the monopoly and of Air Macau, and the liberalization that we'll be witnessing later this year, right? What do you expect of these 2 factors to play a role in the coming years? You think?
When the airport expand, of course, we have more space, because before COVID, we mentioned about before COVID, all the airports in the GBA area, international airports, are very congested. Like Guangzhou, Shenzhen, and also Hong Kong are very congested. And Macau, we still have a little bit slots available, but the ground facility, the resources are very limited, like parking bays are very limited, and also the air bridge are very limited. It's quite hard for more carriers to add more flights to the airport. With the expansion, like before, the airport throughput, we can handle only 9.6 million passengers per year. But after the expansion, currently there's an expansion of the terminal already. With the expansion, the airport can handle 15 million passengers per year. But what I understand, the airport, the government is also trying to utilize the Taipa ferry terminal to be part of the airport terminal. And now there's a progress is working on is to develop more parking lots, more air bridge. So totally, we will have more capacity to like get in more international flights or flights from other countries to Macau. So that's a good sign, honestly. So how can we attract? This is another big question. And when they come, what's the experience? How can we attract them to come back? Because we have everything here. But how we can create the experience, passenger experience, when they arrive here, they feel home. Like the speaker, Mr. Ruiz just mentioned, right? Language is another barrier. And also
taxi services.
Yes. Transportations, yes. Congestions, right? Yes. How to get a taxi. I can share with you one thing. When recently I met one of the friends from mainland China. Macau is with a lot of things, but how we can pack it together, that's another thing. We need to work it out together. So my friend from mainland China, when they arrived Macau, they told me, wow, his first time in Macau, she said, wow, Macau, safety is so nice. You can walk around everywhere. She's a lady. She says she can even walk at night without any worry. And also she find out Macau, you can take picture because now social media everywhere, right? They like to take picture and share with friends. They say, wow, you're Macau. Everywhere I can take picture and share with my friends, share in social media. So we can see we have a lot of attractions here. But how we can make them come back and make more foreign tourists to come here, the stakeholders, players, industry players, we really need to work hand in hand together.
Thank you. Great points. Professor Pennywan, this also relates to the issue of, when you're talking about visitor experience, also relates to the issue of the infrastructure we have and the capacity. Again, it is a bit ironic. We went from 2019, people complaining, oh my goodness, so many tourists, I can't walk downtown. Then all of a sudden we had a pandemic and people were obviously longing for tourists to return. They're here. And it's normal that some people now are already feeling not so comfortable, but there's always a trade-off, right?
Yeah, you point out a very good point. Actually, for TCC, it is not a new topic. We've been studying this topic since 2003 because, again, IFTM was designated by the government to study this issue every year. So it is not an easy topic, but what is TTC? Tourism carrying capacity is we have to make sure that our local people are happy about their life and their quality of life is not degraded, and the tourists at the same time are happy. And we have to make sure that our tourism industry is sustainable. It is very difficult to make a balance. I think it is impossible. Like you said, some party has to sacrifice a little bit. So when we measure the TCC, it is a dynamic issue. So for example, nowadays, after the release, the open up, the lift up of all the measures, we see job is important. We see economic growth is important. We want to, welcome more tourists. So at this point, maybe some residents are willing to sacrifice other things. So, but when you go back to like 2010, 2012, when tourism was booming, so residents say, stop, no more. I want to have my life back. So in fact, if you're living in Macau, you will have a mixed feeling, right? On one hand, you want more tourists, more jobs. At the same time, you don't want to sacrifice your quality of life. So I think what we can do is keep monitoring, right? What happened? Are tourists happy? Are local happy? Which are the aspects they are not happy? Now it is only a few months' time after the lift up of all the measures. We are also studying the carrying capacity. I think the government should, have a longitudinal study like us doing what we're doing to study the TCC, and also at the same time to insert some effort to try to reduce some of the negative impact. So one of the examples is few weeks ago, some tourists, they may misbehave. They just go out on the street and take photo everywhere without taking care of their safety. This is dangerous. It is also not so good for the local people, right? So the authority do the right job, and they give them a signal, remind them this is not a good thing. So for minor things like this, I think the government should convince to the local people that, hey, we are watching, we are monitoring, we are doing something. But of course, for the longer term, I think we really have to take good care of TCC by finding more new land. I'm so sorry to say that because we've been studying for a long time with Professor Francisco from USJ, and we have a paper about how to increase our tourism carrying capacity. If some of you want to read that, I have few copies. And we try to go to every places in Macau, every corner, every houses, especially Professor Francisco. And we put all the data into the AutoCAD. And the result is we find that after we reuse some of the old building, some of the buildings are not being used, like the blue houses along the Mongha area, and some of the shipyard that can be used for tourism purpose. How about the waterfront? We can use it and then connect to different attractions. At the end, we find that we can increase 189% of new land for tourism, almost double. You cannot believe that from everywhere. So for tourism, yeah, we need mega facilities. We need mega resorts. Yeah, they are good, very good attraction. But at the same time, we are tourism and leisure hub, right? We need coffee shop. We need some small museum. We need some small souvenir shop. Here we go, right? Finding some of the shops or government house that are not being used for a long time. Can we modify it for tourism purpose? So there are a lot of things we can do. So the most important thing is I think we have to divert our tourists from very popular area to other parts which are not very highly residential, concentrated area. So
this brings me to the, I would say, fortunate experiment. I don't know if I can call it trial. I may say trial would be the best word on San Malo to make it a pedestrian area for a couple of weekends. That was, broadly speaking, well received, right?
It's well received by a particular group of people, but
some
maybe for the small business, they have some, But always, well, we can try. We can get some comments and feedback and try to see how we improve. One way that we can improve is we always see that from the old ferry station connected to the Fisherman Wharf and then to the Science Center, there are actually a lot of things they can see. They can use the facility. They can go to different hotels around, But these parts are not really well utilized. And because people, they find that it's so sunshine, so shiny, it's very difficult to walk through this area. So the other thing that we can increase our tourism capacity is to make walking to be more accessible. And we have to connect all the paths and also attraction together, make it easy to walk. We don't want people always like to take bus and taxi, right? Yes. Macau is so small. A lot of places can be, within walking distance if they know how to walk. So I think promoting walking may be one of the solution.
It's also about walking the talk, right?
Walking the talk,
And
yes.
our talk that we're holding here. Thank you, Professor Penny. Vincent, I was thinking about the inner harbor area because the Sofitel is located in at the heart of the inner harbor, and also the Almeida Ribeiro, Avenida Almeida Ribeiro area, the San Malo area. We had that area becoming a pedestrian zone on a trial basis. And people would, it was just basically a stone's throw away from Sofitel. Can you tell us a little bit about that and also about how you see this whole discussion that we're having here?
I think that was a great initiative, and the feedbacks we got from our guests and from the tourists in that area was they were amazed, right? They know this street maybe as a very contested, very busy traffic area, but they had it for themselves and for walking. Yeah, I'm sure there were some side effects from some smaller business owners that were not so satisfied with it, but I think the majority, and especially the tourists that come to Macau to experience something special, they enjoyed that very, very much. I'm sure also there's a huge potential when you go to Ponte 14, Ponte 12, down to the new light train station at the Ama Temple, right? That this area is also in plan to be revitalized, right, and reused and reconstructed. So there's a lot of potential also in this area.
There's a lot of potentially many areas in Macau. There's some hidden gems pretty much everywhere, especially in old downtown. And there's also your contribution, your take, your questions, your remarks. So the floor is open. Would anyone like to jump in and share something with us? Ask a couple of questions to the panel? Please, Jill. Thank you.
Louis, I'd like to ask you, if I may, a fairly blunt question, if I may, because DSAL, Labour Department, have always been rather slow in issuing blue cards. We've all, through the years, had problems with this organisation. Is government really getting to them to tell them the urgency that they really have to speed up this system? Because, frankly, if they don't, Macau is just going to be left behind.
Well, I think they had a good response. We are talking to the rebound, and I think they really gave a good response. But we need to think that it's not only depends on their approval. At this stage, depended on many factors, including what were the people doing. Are they willing? They were actually during having COVID. They were also closed in. So this time they also were thinking, if they were working, they were thinking to take an opportunity and see the families or even change job. But also they were thinking, where do we go? So I'm talking about, of course, the potential non-resident workers. So they were in different places. So at this stage, we know they have actually worked the fastest they could. They have approved, they have helped, but the process is very slow. So I know in the past, everybody complained a little bit, but the truth is that there was, I think there was enough workers. Maybe with the difficulty, we are far. This is the problem, is that we are only depending on having someone who's going to take a flight, who's going to take a decision. And obviously the last step is the SAL. But of course there are things to improve. More on the kind of the framework rather than the speed. Of, like I mentioned, allowing students that are in the tourism field to be able to participate as professional too, and also being more flexible. This is my point.
Thank you. Anyone else wants to contribute? Professor Francisco Viseu Pinheiro, talking about Professor Penny, one was referring to this article, this study, Sustainable Scenarios for Macau to Expand its Spatial Tourism Carrying Capacity and to Reuse Heritage Sites. It's a co-authored article by Francisco Viseu Pinheiro and also precisely Professor Penny.
Okay, I can explain a little bit about some examples about
yes, you can, yes, please.
Sites that can be used. One of them is the police station, Central Police Station, called the Quartel San Francisco Barracks, that have an area around 4,000 square meters, so it's huge. It could be used, like in Hong Kong, they transform the Central Police Station as a tourism, art, retail, so it's the center of Hong Kong. Also the police Mary quarters, they convert in the creative industries area. We have also the Cornell Mesquite Avenue, we have several temples, we have forts like Mohat. So we did a survey and we found several places that could be converted, so the government can go to the new buildings, that is also the policy of the government, and convert these facilities in tourism areas. We also should have, in this study, we propose to have museums that are not like miniature, like for example, the Maritime Museum is like a kind of museum showing toys. Macau have a huge history in the Maritime Silk Road, and the technology of Portuguese, Spanish, Chinese, British ships, etc., could be shown in the Maritime Museum, much bigger and more. So this is some example of that we mentioned in our paper. And also many stories are not told because they are sensitive, like the pirates in Colwan and Taipa. They disappear from the museums.
So we could have a sort of a theme park on pirates. Not the Pirates of the Caribbean, of course,
Yeah.
but something even more interesting.
For Disney is a big thing, but here is a
course.
little bit controversial.
I know.
But I have a question that is not linked with this thing of our research. Is the we're missing to attract international tourists, okay, from India, Europe, US. But the current vision of China, particularly during COVID and after, the international press was kind of negative. And sometimes the Chinese reaction also was sometimes strong against who was responsible for COVID and then the economic war with the US. So if we want to attract tourists, we need to give a better, a more attractive image of China, maybe through Macau, Hong Kong, and so this is a work that I think need to be done by the industry and the government, and to see how to, because Macau was a place by UNESCO where the East and West cooperate or live together for five centuries. So this for me is a challenge, and I don't know what are the opinion of the different speakers.
Thank you, Francisco. Would like to
Yeah, maybe I can
please?
address this
Of
a little
course.
bit. Hong Kong government, they have a slogan, "Hello Hong Kong," right? So they try to rebrand themselves to be a happy Hong Kong, hello Hong Kong, we welcome you, right? So I think the ultimate aim is, to attract the international guests, not the domestic travelers. Like I totally agree with you. Both Hong Kong and Macau, we need to maybe co-brand and rebrand. At least we have to tell people that we are safe, we are joyful, we are a city of entertainment, we have everything that you want. It is an accessible place, and people living here are full of hospitality, right? So I think it's the time that we need to give the right message to the international guests to promote ourselves. Of course, it is easy said than done, but I think Macau is doing a good job in the right direction. At least people feel that we are safe and we are very happy, and it's a city of entertainment. Look at the tourism products that we are producing. It's very diversified, in fact. The local cuisine, the festival, you want to see there's something new and old, modern, architecture, everything. So I don't know whether I addressed your question, but
Please, Vincent, you would like to?
Yeah, one point is we need to provide quality. Quality always attracts people. Quality attracts the right tourists to come to our beautiful city. The best is only good enough. That's the mindset we should all have as a city, not just in a hotel. We try to make each and every guest that stays with us satisfied, and when he leaves, he has the desire to come back to us, for example, at the Sofitel or at MGM, at the Crown Plaza, wherever it is. Yeah? I think this should be a citywide project to have the same mindset. We need to try very, very hard all together. If it's a small noodle shop, it's a museum, it's the policeman at the immigration, it's the front desk lady that checks you out, to give you the feeling that you really have the strong desire to come back. Because then you will go home, you will meet your friends. You said, I was in Hong Kong, I was in Macau, I was in Hanoi, and then I go back to Vienna, and I tell my friends there, Macau was the best. The service was excellent, the product was amazing, the price was still acceptable, and the people were so friendly and welcoming. And that spread by mouth will give the biggest returns. That's, in my opinion, better than any promotion that we could do, is those people that come here will come back, and they also spread the word for us to promote Macau as a city or as a whole project, not just as an individual.
Word of mouth is of paramount importance, and we've been seeing, you were talking about KOLs, right, coming to town, and there's a lot of work being carried out, actually, including by the hotel operators, integrated resorts, tourism authorities on that front. And this brings me, Francisco was talking about the city's maritime resources, and interestingly, maritime tourism, if I may address things this way, was one of the issues on the requirements for non-gaming projects to be put forth by the gaming operators in the new concessions. How do you see these potential making the most of the city's relation, centuries old, intimate relation with the surrounding waters?
Before I
Yeah, please,
I
and
go
then-
to this,
and then
I'd like
address
to
the
add
others,
on,
please,
on
yeah.
what was said already about Hong Kong and following on the question. Is we depended a lot on international tourism in Hong Kong, so we need to see Hong Kong getting stronger. So we need to have this opportunity. So this will take time. We need to see Hong Kong rebound too in the international arena. And this will help Macau without any doubts. So this is very important. So this is one point I like to see. I don't see any other reasons but that, seriously. The airport, the people, and then they used to come to Macau and spend one day. So we need them to do that one day or sometimes 2 days. On what we see, the water, yes, we have to take advantage of the water and around Macau. This is still to be done. There is already some activities, but I think there's a lot to be still to be explored.
Celia, you want to?
Yeah, I want to add one
yeah,
point
please
as
go
well.
ahead.
Yeah, for international tourists, if you notice, Macau actually signed allow 81 countries visa-free to enter Macau. I think that is really powerful. We should utilize this kind of like strong policy to attract tourists to come here. And because when they come here, they can't just come to Macau, right? Speakers just mentioned many times already, one-stop, multi-destinations. So we should have a policy to attract them to get in Macau first and travel into GBA or Hong Kong and exit out of Hong Kong or Macau. Most of the airports in China have this, or internationally have this kind of policy called transit visa. Tourists from overseas, when they arrive in Macau, they can have visa-free to go to GBA for 72 hours or 144 hours, and then come back, either Hong Kong or Macau. This will enable Macau to attract more international tourists to step into Macau first, then exit via either Hong Kong or Macau. So I mean, this is some policies Macau and Hong Kong can enjoy because we are visa-free.
So you're pointing to, of course, mobility and mobility in the Greater Bay Area. Anyone would like to please go ahead?
I would like to
Yes,
ask,
please,
in terms of MICE,
Yeah.
do you think we need more hotels? Because MICE is one of the important thing for diversification.
Thank you very much. The issue of the case to increase hotel room figures if we want people to stay and.
Yes, definitely. MICE is one of the most attractive same type of tourism because it's a long-staying guests. You know, they need to come. They need to prepare exhibition. They stay for exhibition. After take one day to rest. So MICE is definitely one of the most important areas that need to be developed. And yes, there are some of the integrated resorts that need more rooms in the future because of the MICE development, yes. We know that they are actually working on that as we speak.
This issue of the case for increasing the figures that we've got here in terms of hotel rooms in the coming decade, Vincent, or maybe you may also want to address the issue of how Hengqin can help in this respect.
Yeah, definitely to come back to the question, we definitely need more rooms. If we see the trends and if we go back to those 40 million visitors at one day or maybe even more, who knows, we definitely do need more rooms. And then Hengqin can also play a major role to supply rooms for Macau. Because Macau, the land is restricted, right? The development, the Galaxy is adding a lot of rooms, other concessionaires adding a lot of rooms, but it reached kind of space limitations. So the only solution will be Hengqin to develop a huge inventory of rooms there that will supply not only Hengqin, but then also definitely Macau with rooms and tourists coming in.
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
One thing just I want to add is that I hope to see that there are more themed hotels. Especially in the younger generation, they like to, when you go to Taiwan, they will see, wow, so many different themed hotels for them to choose. I think if they add more hotels, that they can go for this direction. To divert some younger generation, they like more IT, they like more theme, and then they go for that.
Yes, the issue of the profile of visitors and the service that your team is already carrying out. It's showing that we have younger, more women, younger, is that correct?
Group-based.
Group-based.
Right.
So it's, and then they...
And also they look for visiting heritage sites.
Yes.
Shopping, visiting heritage site, and cuisine are the top three.
Yes.
So the implication for me is that I think shopping can be easily replaced by other cities like Hainan Island. Hong Kong is a shopping paradise, right? But some things that cannot be easily taken away, which is our culture and heritage. So if they are very desired to visiting our World Heritage sites, I think in the coming future we have to really look into the matter how we can make sure that they know the historical corridor. A lot of our tourists actually they know this corridor, but they cannot find a way. And some of the Portuguese very famous heritage sites are located on the hilltop, and they don't know how to get there. And also, are the signage clear enough, directing the way to walk through the entire corridor? That is another issue. So for HR, I think for us like IFTM or other higher education, we also have to provide a lot more training to our tour guide, telling them that not just how to deliver good service, but you have to tell story. Do they know how to tell the story of our local food? Do they know about the Portuguese food, the ingredients of all of this manganese food? What is the history of this particular place? You are selling story, right? Even though the younger generation, they like to hear the stories.
Telling the Macau story or
Yes.
telling the Macau stories in history, of course. Please, Jill.
Thank you. Penny, how do we resolve the problem of getting into a Macau taxi? I no speak English. Okay.
Yeah.
Because any foreigner who comes here, oh my God, this is the first thing they encounter. So using AI intelligently, is there any way in a taxi for a taxi driver who doesn't speak English could just turn on a gadget and immediately, we can have interaction of where I want to go? Okay,
Wow.
AI should work everywhere. I don't know. It's just
I have no solution for that. I really don't know how maybe the...
Well, many years ago, there was a tentative to actually have the person talking to the central, but I don't think it worked for a long time. But this is ages ago. This is in another Macau life. We tried, there was a try. So, but possibly, technically, this will be like one of the good works to do.
Yeah, sorry, just want to jump in and say something. My experience, like if you go to a country, I remember when I go to Singapore, the taxi driver is so knowledgeable, right? You feel safe when you talk to them. They can tell you from economic to culture to everything. So I fully agree with you.
They
We need
speak,
to train because the first
17 languages and
the
dialects,
first
right?
touching point they face is taxi driver. I mean,
Right, true.
yes, Macau needs to really upgrade the quality of the taxi driver. I fully agree on that. Yes.
They could even play a role in telling a story. I don't know. A story of those
Yes.
stories,
Exactly,
yes, of those
exactly.
stories
Why
about
not?
heritage of
That's
the city
our
and all of that.
Achilles, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yes. Please now, thank you.
I just
Now,
wanted
Larry.
to go back to a question earlier. What could be the potential impact of the ending of Air Macau's strong control over the airport here? That ending at the end of the year, what potential impact could that have for the amount of visitors and airlines, etc., coming into the city?
Okay.
Celia,
Sure,
you may
sure.
also
Yeah.
contribute.
Love to contribute and see how we can interact. Right? For ending concessions, you know Macau small city, right? When it is small, in the very beginning, everything has to be monopoly. You can see all industries are monopoly. We have no choice because those companies, they come in, they need to sign contracts, they need to also survive. So I don't bring them. But after so many years, because Macau is already opened up many those kind of companies, including casinos, right? Including the airport also have the ground handlers, sorry, not yet, but the duty-free shops is already opened up. So there's a sign showing us that when you open up the market, you bring in competitions, and competition will create better service or bigger market. The cake is getting bigger. And now if you see all this infrastructure from the Greater Bay Area is integrating Macau into the Greater Bay. So we already have something happening. A bigger market is behind our back. The catchment area is getting bigger. So I believe the open up is something will bring much better and bigger tourists, international tourists or international carriers to Macau. So I mean that is positive.
Is there any indication, like you said, there was 9 million, that it's gone to 15 million? Any indication of where it could be in 10 years' time?
10 years time, it really depends on infrastructure. If you look at the airport, they need to expand first, right? If you do not expand, the tourist, the throughput, the passenger throughput will be limited as well. But as I explained to you, the government, I can see they are also foresee the expansion of the airport. So there's a preparation to convert part of the ferry terminal to be airport passenger terminal. So that gives some space for the airport to expand. So it makes sense. And the airport is surrounding, it's actually built on the sea. It's 10% of the Macau total land. So there's potential for them to expand further as well. So once that is in place, there's a potential for the whole airport to increase the throughput number. That should not be a big issue. Yeah.
We still have time for a couple of more remarks and questions by the audience. Professor Francisco Viseu Pinheiro.
So this is a question, but I don't expect any answer from you because it's something new. In the past, we saw there was no real cooperation among the different government departments. So they work like silos that don't communicate between them. For example, Public Works or ICM or Cultural Institute, and the concessionaires, the gambling operators. And this creates many problems because the negotiation for land, they have to go directly to the chief executive to, for example, to get land in Cotai that was supposed to be a new city for 120,000 people and suddenly become for 0 people and a lot of casinos. So Is there now some chances of more cooperation between the operators and the government institutions? Do you see in the scenario with the new government, the new situation, more cooperation, or still the same as before, that each department try to solve the problems, like the traffic department try to solve the problem, the casinos try to solve by providing the casino buses. So there was a kind of competition within the government and the casinos operation. So do you foresee in the future to have some more dialogue and cooperation in planning between the different stakeholders, like happened, for example, in Singapore, when there is the one institution, that is the URA, the Urban Redevelopment Authority, that negotiate the planning and with the operators. Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Anyone would like to
Well, no,
share?
what I can share is that
Perhaps
we
Luis.
have meetings or presentations with some of the authorities, some of the departments, can be the police when there's a change with on the law, can be with, obviously very regularly with the tourism and even the IPIM. So we tend to have this now on what is policy. This is different. In that area, no, we might give our ideas, but we don't discuss policy directly with them. But we do share a lot of concerns. We do sit together and discuss some of the issues, yes.
I can add a little bit. My student actually will present tomorrow in our tech summit in London, and she's actually working on a project about shortcoming of heritage conservation and coordination among the government, and she also finds similar issues about, in some places, seems uncoordinated, things like that. But this past few years, actually, I see the chief executive is very determined. When he saw something that has to be addressed quickly, and he will form a task force and do it immediately. So unlike I should not compare, but you will find that something changes and some actions are faster. Also, I noticed that last year I have a colleague in University of Macau was drawn to work for the MGTO, and her task is to study the younger generation, their new behavior, their preferences. I think there are some collaborations among at least academic and the government in some ways, but they don't make it an official institution or coordination. But in the future, definitely it is a good idea. Although IFTM has contributed in a lot of their studies, but it is important that all key stakeholders, we can work out issues together. At least we got some common or consensus of some issues and posed to the government. But since that currently we don't have a formal mechanism like the URA in Singapore, what they're doing.
Well, we would like to, before we go for a wrap-up, anyone else, we still have time for one last question from the audience. Anyone would like to jump in?
Can I give a suggestion more to the operators, not to the government?
Mm-hmm.
Is that because operators have money and they hire normally the best construction companies and design companies in the region and the world, and is to advise the government kind of a plan B for different solutions. For example, we have the waste solution. We are running out of space. Macau produces 4 times more than Beijing in terms of waste, and we have no space, and we cannot export this to waste. We also have pollution produced by the incinerator that is very toxic, and there are a lot of issues like traffic that I think the concessionaires could create a kind of city labs and propose solutions to help the government, because the government don't have enough and proper trained staff to address this, because the city changed very much from 20 years ago. Was a small city and become Las Vegas of the Far East. For example, I checked the number in the yearbooks. Do you know how many landscape architects are registered now in Macau for planning? One. So one guy that is authorized to do landscape architecture in the city, and the number of architects also is quite small compared. So there is, and most of the government officers are bureaucrats. They are not real involved in the project planning. So they need the support come from other cities, from China or from the universities, or so. But I think the one logical solution is that the operators have their study group about the city problems and propose solutions.
The 6 gaming concessionaires, integrated resorts operators, right?
Yeah.
That's right. Thank you.
There will be peanuts in terms of budget for them.
Thank you, Francisco. I will now go for a final round for summing up some points before we conclude our session. Luis, how to make the most of this tourism revival that we're witnessing, and way forward a couple of highlights you'd like to share with us from this session.
Thank you. So, well, this next year or the 5 months have passed, and then we need another 6-7 months to pass the first year. So we are relearning also in a way. We are restarting. So I think we need to keep going step by step as we did. We discussed this a lot, Vince and I and our colleagues. What we could, many times we were very tempted to accept a few more guests, but we couldn't because we didn't have the manpower. If we have 300 rooms, we were selling 220, not 260, because then the experience for the tourists wouldn't be the same. Will fall in terms of experience of quality. So we have to be steady there with the quality and go step by step, learn and understand. This is also we need a lot of marketing. We need to study because this is happening everywhere. They also learning themselves the market. So we need to learn the markets. We need to understand what is the new behaviors and how can we provide the best services and matching exactly what we want. So I think this first year is to be steady. We are well, so we are doing well, so we are satisfied, very satisfied, but we cannot go crazy. So this is what I think is for the next.
Celia.
Okay. For me, I just want to share, like, for attracting international tourists to Macau, I can see we should set some like medium-term target or long-term target to be realistic. If you look at Macau International Airport, most of the flights are from mainland China and also from Southeast Asia. So the first step, what I believe we should, or the industry or the government should focus on how to attract foreign tourists from Southeast Asia to Macau in order to diversify. The current tourists coming into Macau are mainly dominated by mainland Chinese or Hong Kong. So this is the first step. So how to attract those tourists, international tourists from Southeast Asia to Macau? So this is something that we can start immediately because we have the flight connections already. And for long-haul tourists like Australia or Europe or US, we do not have direct flights. Why don't we think about connecting points? Like, for example, Air Asia, we have flights to Cool, right? Or to Bangkok. Then we can connect many overseas destinations in Australia, in Middle East, or in India. So that is the connecting point, and we need to utilize all these spin connecting points, how to attract foreign international tourists via those points to Macau. Or other carriers like EVA Air, they have, Taipei is also a hub airport. So they have connections to US and Europe. So how to connect them from Europe, US via Taipei to Macau. So that is our plan. So we can attract, instead of we have to have a direct flight, but how to make the product is a product. How to make the product work, then we need to discuss, of course, with the operators. So tourists will come.
Thank you. That is the way forward.
Thank
you, Celia. Penny, your concluding remarks, the way forward, suggestions?
I totally agree with the speakers that this year we are learning. No one knows what's happened. So this year we are recovering and we're learning. We're studying everything. But for academic, for higher education institution, we will not wait. So what we do is keep, giving training to our students and to equip them with different aspects of skills they needed to serve in the industry. So I think this is our job. So if everybody or every industry partners, they perform their job right and they know what they are doing and they know their vision, I think we have better synergy and a collective energy at the end. So that's all I want to say. As academic, we will not wait, and we will try to satisfy the industry as much as we can.
Thank you. And Vincent, your final comments, your final words,
Thank
and
you.
concluding
I stick
remarks.
with quality. I think quality is the key to success. We need to push very, very hard. There's a lot of competition out there. The competition is the world, right? Lots of countries have good cultures, good food. Lots of cities open up for gambling, etc., etc. You can shop all over the world. Quality has to be the major target for Macau in terms of product, service, and entertainment. And if we can retain the quality that we have and maintain the quality that we have, plus add on that, I think Macau will be on a very, very good way to be very, very successful in the next couple of years, because people will come, they will love it, and they will come back.
Thank you. That is highly related with this concept that has been widely spoken of, which is high development or high quality development, I shall say, in a holistic way. Thank you very, very much. With this, we conclude our session. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much, Luis, Heredia, Celia Lau, anyone, Vincent, Rosa de Pauli. All of you who joined us here at Rui Cunha Foundation, those who are following us on Facebook or watching us on YouTube. And of course, a special thanks to Rui Cunha Foundation. Our partnership has been yielding fruitful results and also great talks, and we've been building this kind of public sphere of discussing current affairs, putting forth suggestions, keeping alive the conversation about our city. Thank you very much, Dr. Rui Cunha, Rui Pedro Cunha, Felipe, and the whole team of Rui Cunha Foundation that has been supporting us. We will be back next month, and we can actually disclose that, let you know that in about 1 month, we'll be having a roundtable with representatives of chambers of commerce. We will take this pulse of the city's economic activity and the way forward. Thank you very much. Wish you all the best. See you next time. Thank you.